We've been making predictions about what the opening of Disney World and Universal will look like in Orlando in the coming months when they do open. And today we finally have some key takeaways from a very big meeting involving Orange County and some executives. They're known as the Orange County Economic Recovery Task Force, and they met on Tuesday to go over the plans for opening up Central Florida. There were many individuals who were at the meeting from Walt Disney World and all across Central Florida, all discussing what the future of these amusement parks and other things around Central Florida will look like as they begin to reopen. Now, before we dive into all the details, I do want to start off by mentioning they did not mention a date. There is no date that I'm going to be mentioning in this video because we simply don't know when it will be. But the plan is now starting to be formed for what it's going to look like once we do have the date. So if the date is in the summer sometime, they can say, okay, this is the plan. We've already created the plan for this opening day. So it's all about creating the plan this time so we get an idea of what Walt Disney World will look like once they reopen again. Let's dive into it. The key takeaways for the meeting were broken down into different categories. The first category is theme parks. Broken down even further, we've got guidelines and mandates for each section. So for under theme parks, the guidelines, 3 of them, include tape markings of 6 feet apart in ride and attraction queues. Staff cast members are to regularly wipe down surfaces at random throughout the theme park. Phase 1 and Phase 2, staff who are 65 years and older are encouraged to stay home and not work during this time because it's stage 1 and stage 2 of the reopening. So they're going to break it down into stages. Now we come to the mandates themselves, the things that all the theme parks must do when we get this Phase 1 opening. First up, all employees are required to wear face masks. Now this will mean that Walt Disney World or Universal Studios or any of these places will be required to provide face masks for cast members. It just makes sense since they're making it mandatory. Disney's got to provide them. Touchless hand sanitizing stations where you put your hand under and it kind of puts out that hand sanitizer that you can use will be at each ticketing entry and turnstile and at each ride and attraction entry and exit. In addition, the one that we predicted, but in a very interesting way, temperature checks for all staff prior to your shift. So temperatures above 100.4 are not allowed on the premises. Now that's only for cast members. There's nothing in this list that says that all guests have to be scanned for a temperature. That, I'm not sure if we're going to hear more details about that. I would imagine that's going to be part of this, but in terms of this mandate, they only have it for the cast members for now. Keep in mind, this could change. All employees with flu-like symptoms are advised to stay home. That's great. Wipe down of all railings and surfaces after every use. And last but not least, very interesting, as part of Phase 1, all parks are only going to be allowing 50% capacity in the entire park. And for Phase 2, it's going to be 75% capacity. That is a major difference than what we're going to be used to. So we're going to go to the parks, and they're going to be very different than we've ever seen them before. These are some mandates that this task force has laid out for the Phase 1 and Phase 2 reopening whenever it happens. Next up, we've got guidelines for restaurants, and this is not just at Walt Disney World and Universal, this is all over Central Florida and Orange County. The guidelines include paper and disposable menus, encouraging takeout and online orders, I mentioned that before, and touchless sanitizer at entry. Phase 1 and Phase 2 staff who are 65 years and older are encouraged to stay home, like the theme parks. Encouraging takeout and online orders. I made a video not too long ago talking about some of those things. Check it out right there. But I think the idea of mobile order and pay, and you find your table and you just type in the table number. You don't get up. You don't have to scan your card. Nothing. All mobile order and pay done at these specific tables. I've gone into those details in an earlier video, but I think that would be a perfect solution. A couple mandates for restaurants. Hand sanitizer at every table. Every single table is going to have hand sanitizer. Wow. Hand sanitizer at entry has to be in plain visible sight so that everyone can use it. All employees are required to wear face masks in every single restaurant. Temperature checks for all staff before your shift. 100.4 will mean you're not going to be on the premises, and all employees with flu-like symptoms are advised to stay home. In addition, doors will be wiped down regularly. All staff behind counters must wear gloves except for bartenders who will have to sanitize their hands after making each drink. Very interesting. And seated tables will be 6 feet apart. As part of Phase 1, very interesting here, all restaurants will be at a 50% capacity. You cannot increase it in phase 1. In phase 2, restaurants can have a 75% capacity, but that is going to be a really big difference. Now on to the hotels, not just at Disney, not just at Universal, but all across Central Florida and Orange County. Some of the guidelines include, for phase 1, housekeeping services is to be limited and allow for minimal guest and employee exposure. Promote, if available, online or mobile check-in. Also, housekeeping services only clean upon requests. That's a guideline, so you only get cleaned upon requests when guests depart. Allow employees to work from home, not playing a critical role in serving guests. That's very interesting. Only deliver room service to guests' doors, not inside, and also provide self-parking. So that, I'm guessing that means included self-parking. Those are all part of phase 1. In addition, we have promote social distancing for all guests and all staff, recommend touchless sanitizer at entry, increase cleaning services and additional sanitation throughout the entire area, wherever it is, and for phase 1 and phase 2, staff over the age of 65 will be encouraged to stay home. Now, those are the guidelines for the hotels in the Orlando area. What about those mandates, the things that they are required to do? All employees required to wear face masks. Hand sanitizer at the entry to the hotel to be in plain visible sight. Temperature checks for staff, not mentioning any guests here, prior to your shift. 100.4 means no entering the premises. All flu-like symptoms, advised to stay home. Front desk to sanitize themselves on a regular basis, and consistent cleaning of all guests' areas. In addition to that, we've got front desk to utilize sneeze guards. I would imagine that means like a piece of plexiglass or plastic in front of the front desk. Every single hotel has to have it. It's a mandate here. Wow. Remove all service items in guest rooms to include glassware and coffee cups, etc. Mini bars not to be stocked. No self-food services. So no touching of the food, to serve yourself. So none of that. Very interesting. And space pool furniture according to distancing guidelines. So that means recliner chairs might be 6 feet apart. Pool gates and pool chairs to be sanitized regularly. Door handles, elevator buttons, railings to be sanitized regularly. Remove all coffee makers from guest rooms. Remove all guest collateral items except for those that are single use. I think towels would be included, so you can have the towels, but other things like, I'm trying to envision something that would be non-single use in a guest room. Part of me thinks like the TV remote. I would imagine that maybe it'll be just left on or perhaps just left off. Maybe no TV because that remote, maybe, it just isn't safe to have something that's passed from guest to guest throughout your stays. So that would be one I would probably avoid touching. Sanitize guest room keys before and after each use. Sanitize bell carts after each use. And phase 1 and phase 2, no conferences whatsoever. A very, very interesting list from the task force who's working to open the Central Florida area back up again. It sounds great. All of these things sound really good. This is the first proposal. I have a feeling we're going to see some updates to it, like the temperature checks for guests, and perhaps encouraging all guests to wear masks and providing masks for guests. Those are other things that I think that they could really add to this proposal, but it looks like Florida and Orange County is really starting to move in the right direction in terms of planning. Again, no dates. There is no date for when this is all going to be implemented, but they've got a plan in place, or they're working on the plan right now to make sure that when we do have a date, we're ready to go. We knew that there was going to be a new normal after all of this was said and done, and this is just one example of how that is going to become a new normal for a while. I have a feeling these measures will be in place for some time to come. When Walt Disney World and Universal, when all these places open up again, we're going to see these measures implemented for a long time. Maybe not, no TV remotes for after all this is said and done, but perhaps the mobile order and pay will be changed forever. Perhaps sanitizing stations will forever be all around, which I think is a good thing. I think it's a really good thing, but these changes will definitely have a long-term impact. All of that being said, again, I have no doubt that once all of this is done, we are going to be back better than ever before. It's just going to take time. Those are a few updates from the Orange County Task Force. I think that's all really good ideas, and I have a feeling we're going to see the reopening somewhat soon. I don't want to say any dates because it's an evolving situation, but hopefully very soon. Let me know your thoughts on this proposal in the comments below. Do you like these things? You think that more things have to be added? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being a part of the magic with me today. Until next time, have a magical day.